Welcome to another episode of Higher Living with Chad. And today we're getting into data. We're going to show you data. We're going to do something different, but we think this can be very interesting moving forward. We've got different case examples that we'll be able to show you over time, starting with today with patient number one, which is me. So for full transparency, what we're looking at today is a case report completed on myself and my dosing. And I think the reason behind doing this is I've been on an extended break from predominantly THC products. So THC-based cannabinoids. I always have a period of time every year where I have an extended break and I change that over to CBD products. And I've gone over a month, and I think it's a very good way to just pause and to be able to present some of this data. So a few things to know in advance while you're watching this. None of this was scripted. None of this was planned. All we've been able to do is connect the dots looking backwards and presenting this information to you so you can then start making informed decisions around your own life and being able to understand how we utilize some of this data on an individual basis. And the best way to do it is just to be completely transparent and completely vulnerable and say, this is what has been going on in my life. And that is the focus for today. We're going into a case study. It's an OnTracka patient report featuring Chad. So let's go. All right. So one of the biggest things that we see with CBD and what we hear, and if you didn't see us a few weeks back, dive into CBD with the ranges of dosing, maybe you go back and watch that episode after you get through these next few minutes. But we're going to start off with looking at a dose range. And as you're able to see, so it's been over 30 days was captured. And what you're going to be able to see throughout this time as well is that we've then captured 30 days, the last 30 days. And again, no planning, no bias has gone into that. And then we've compared that to the past 11 months so that we're able to take a section of information and then ensure that that's not isolated, that then it stands the test of time across the last year. And so things to know around that, my life has been the same. I won't go into it in too much detail, but I'm a founder of a company. I've survived cancer in the past. There's a whole range of other things that go along with it. So with that comes different challenges and struggles and different stresses that occur on a regular basis. So what you're capturing at the moment, nothing out of the ordinary has occurred in these past 30 days. Doesn't happen within my life which hasn't happened in these last 12 months. So everything you're seeing is very accurate. That's a first disclaimer. While we then drive into what dosing has been like. And see here, you're going to have a look. The favorite, like the most optimal dose that I've been operating at is 132 milligrams of full spectrum CBD. Big shout out to Holos Bioscience. That is the product that I use, and I've been utilizing this for several years. So we've got very good comparable data as well over this period of time, over, say, the last 3 years that we'd be able to present to you as well. But drilling into it, you're going to be able to see here that the range starts at 66 milligrams. So the lowest dose that I had was 66 milligrams of a full spectrum, and I had that on 2 different occasions. And then that took us all the way up to 499 milligrams. And that was done on 2 different occasions. So the range is quite large. Breaking it down, you're going to be able to see that by far the most popular dose for me is 132 milligrams. And I had that on 10 different occasions, which is by far, when looking at the range, the best dose that I have had. And we've got some dosing information that you're going to see on the next page to go with that. But then breaking it down further, we can have a look at percentages. And you'll be able to see that 50% of the time, I've utilized a dose that is between 66 milligrams and 165 milligrams. And then the other 50% of the time was 233 milligrams to 499 milligrams. Again, there was no planning done in this. There was a little bit of review that was going on in terms of how I use my dosing data, which I'm going to show to you now. Which I think is probably a good way to segue into. So let's go in and have a look at the dosing data. To look at dosing data, what you're going to be able to see is unbiased and credible data, which captures how safe the products are that you're using, how effective they are, whether or not there were any other adverse events or unwanted effect that was associated with the products that you're taking. This doesn't have to be CBD as well. This could be a THC products or your psychedelics, whether you're macro dosing them or you're micro dosing them, or it could be other medications. This gives you a before score, it gives you an after score, and it lets you know mindfully how your medicines are affecting you. And if you utilize OnTracka with your clinician, or if you're part of our real world data study, this then goes back to your doctor as well. What's great, first and foremost, there are no adverse events. So there was 9 reported events during this time. So 9 recorded sessions, yeah? And if you have a look, there were no adverse events and no safety events, as would be expected when utilizing CBD. But to be mindful, this includes doses. As you can see here, 2 doses were done at 400 milligrams. And again, no adverse events, no safety issues were recorded. Now, what's going to be interesting, and some of you may be, anyway, let's leave my judgment out of it. What's very interesting is that the average titration and the average onset time for me to feel optimal effects was 3 hours and 20 minutes. 3 hours and 20 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean that I wasn't potentially feeling some effect earlier as well, but I would come back. And again, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to come back and record at this time. 3 hours and 20 minutes across the 9 sessions, there was an average. So the lowest one, I think the lowest one came in just over 2 hours. And the reported session that I did where there was the longest titration was above 4 hours. So that average works out to be 3 hours and 20 minutes after I would consume my CBD when I start having, okay, this is my optimal effect. So 3 hours and 20 minutes, something to be mindful of if you're utilizing CBD yourself and you're experimenting with different doses. Just be mindful, this was my body, this was my biology, but that just gives you a rough time frame around the onset time for how long this can come into effect. As said before, fastest onset was 2 hours and 10 minutes. And no surprises. If you look at that 132 milligram dose, which was most popular for me, if we're going to go back to it 10 times in the last 30 days. So, very easy to do. There are numbers around that. If you're having a look, very evident that it improved focus and it improved productivity. Significantly off the charts, improved focus, improved productivity. There were some other factors that are associated with that as well, but by far what stood out was 132 milligrams for me was like brain power, right? And then you're going to be able to see when that dose increases, the biggest thing, while there's some other effects that have been recorded, that would need to be strengthened for us to report on that. It's not like we see it as a one-off and we come and say, oh, wow, look what we've seen. It's not credible. What is evident across those times, what we have noticed is high relaxation, very big shifts, very big changes in how I'm reporting my relaxation. Now this is I think this is the next place we're going to go on to is other changes that we've noticed. So again, being mindful, we've reported on one section at a time, which is a 30-day period, the last 30 days, and we've made comparisons to every 30-day section throughout that 12-month period as well. And what you're going to see is that these are areas that I look at on a regular basis. And these are areas that we would have thought we could see some influence. So we thought we would have seen some influence with depression. We may have seen some influence with anxiety, for sure. We thought, okay, if you're using CBD, we probably would have seen, hey, is there reductions or are there increased cravings? And then there was a curiosity around things like heart rate, steps, and anger. They were the key areas that we looked at: depression, anxiety, anger, fatigue, heart rate, sleep, and cravings. Nothing was statistically significant. There were no changes from utilizing CBD at any of those doses compared to when I'm on my usual medicines in the past, which are predominantly THC based. So no differences. What we did notice, and where we're going to drive into, is stress. So if we have a look here, you have a look at the first graph. First graph shows the last 30 days. There are some fluctuations that occur, but then we've been able to average that out. And then you can see that we've then compared that to a 12-month period. And what we've been able to see in a 30-day period, the average of 6, and then into 12 months, spreading across, it's an average of 5, which gives us a 20% increase. So what we're looking at is that I've been more stressed in the past 30 days. And so what that could indicate, again, if we're just going to dive and start exploring that a little bit, that if I am feeling stressed as a coping mechanism, that the THC allows my body and my mind to get into a position where it eliminates stress. Whereas CBD may not have that effect on me while I am reporting other areas that you're going to see before. Notable is that I've been more stressed, and it's significant. It's a 20% spike in my average stress in the past 30 days. Yeah. Irritability. So another spike. And this time we're seeing a 25% spike in irritability. So generally, I score on average, it's, as you can see here, there are some fluctuations, but if we're to average it out, it's an average of 4 over the past 12 months. And then in the past 30 days, what you're going to see is that it has been pretty stable, but I get a bigger spike. So if I am more stressed, very likely that the irritability then adds on the top of that as well. And you can have different spikes in other areas potentially, but it wasn't statistically significant. But what we're able to see here is that stress went up and irritability went up. Now, there could be some in the camp that say, well, there you go. You use THC too often, you use it too much, and your irritability is a sign of withdrawals. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. I think that I'm pretty stressed as a normal guy, and I'm pretty irritable, and the CBD has an effect, but it doesn't level me out as much as taking a dose of THC without some of the other cannabinoids that come along for the ride, as occurs with a full spectrum, and we can dive into that in another time. Is there any good news? Okay, so it's not about, that, to be mindful, there's no agenda here. There's no agenda. We're not in a camp of saying this is what you should do. It's not about that. This is just presenting data and letting that tell the story. I'm more stressed and I'm more irritable. It doesn't actually affect me too much. Maybe speak to my wife and she may have a different opinion on it, but that's a different story. What we're having a look at is that we do see an increase in focus. So as we're able to see, and as it was reported earlier, we're now seeing a significant increase in my average focus. So my average focus, generally, I'm about a 7 out of 10. So I am fairly focused, and that could be as a result of my usual routine, but also the other things that I do to enhance my focus on a daily and weekly basis. I need to be performing at a high level. I need high output, and my focus is essential to that. This indicates that my focus is, I'm an 8 out of 10 at the moment, which is wonderful to report on. And so wrapping this up, again, there was no agenda to it, but I think it's helpful to do a bit of a deep dive. So if we're going to have a look at a summary, we've also looked at validated instruments. So we're able to measure things like my quality of life. We're able to have a look at the PHQ-9, which is the gold standard for looking at depression. And then we looked at another area as well in terms of additional symptoms. But again, nothing was statistically significant, and there's no point showing you data that is worthless, right? So be mindful. We looked at a whole range of different area and data, including sleep data, including heart rate variability data. And really, there wasn't any great differences for my heart rate. It was minimal changes. My sleep stayed the same. Which is interesting from jumping from one to the other. But all I can do is report on what I've noticed. I sleep pretty well as it is, but it didn't change at all in the past 30 days. Cravings didn't go up as I thought they would have, but they were on average. And that could be because I have regular tolerance breaks throughout my typical months as well. So whether or not that balances it out, again, steps and lifestyle didn't improve. Anger didn't, no changes, anxiety and depression. What we did see was marked changes, significant changes to focus going up. We saw irritability going up, and we saw stress going up. And together that gives me places us in a position to say, okay, well, how beneficial has this exercise been for you? You're more stressed and you're more irritable. If you integrate THC back in your life, there's a likelihood, being mindful, my circumstances hasn't changed. I have different stresses that come in all the time. So there's no in more variability that's occurred in these past 30 days to what has occurred in my past 12 months. So what it suggests is that I could be less stressful and less irritable, but then it may sacrifice what my focus is like if I decide to go back and get off my typical schedule at the moment, which is taking relatively high doses of CBD above the average recommendation generally, or just a little bit under 100. And if we're looking at over the counter and they're saying it's 150 milligrams, I'm at 132 most of the time. I saw there was a new report came out saying a healthy individual like myself wouldn't need more than 160 on a regular basis. I know I've got other individuals that say that we can have much more. This is Higher Living for the week, where we're looking at CBD again. There's a big interest in CBD. You can probably see why we've been focused on CBD, because I've been on it all month and been taking predominant THC products out of my life. Be mindful. Typically, the difference of what I'm having with a full spectrum CBD is that I'm getting a whole range of different cannabinoids in my system, which do include some THC as well. So it could be that I'm still getting, say, a 20-to-1, so 20 parts of CBD to 1 part THC. So it's not like I'm on it's not like I've completely eliminated it from my life, more that I've changed and getting more of an entourage effect, as they call, from a whole different range of cannabinoids coming into my body. And to think about it, it's the whole orchestra at once, rather than just the loud drums of the THC. Think about the whole orchestra playing. So you may have the violin, you've got the drums, you've got everything going on at once and giving this feeling. But that feeling, as you've seen, improves focus. But for me, my stress and my irritability comes up. There was no agenda here. I'd be very interested to see, what are your experiences when you take doses of CBD like this, or what are the changes that you notice from taking CBD to THC? And if you want to actually know and get your own data behind it, this data is all available to you for free, anonymously, on the app called OnTracka, which is going to go through some updates very, very soon. Hoping these videos have some relevance to you, provide a little bit of education, and ensure that you're receiving credible information that you can take on your own journey, or you can pass on to your family and friends that are beginning or going through their own journey as well. I do stress that point. If you find this to be of value, please pass this information on. Help us get this message out to more people. There's enough people out there selling snake's oil and having information that lacks a lot of credibility. Share this message if you're getting some value out of it. That is the only thing that we ask. I'm signing off for now. My name is Chad Walker, and I'm the founder at OnTracka, and this has been Higher Living. Thank you very much.